Hello, good evening everyone. Today I have selected the topic and that is of utter importance. This is what we call dealing with the acutes. Because being a homeopath, a conventional idea goes in the society that homeopathy is meant for chronic disease only. But that is not at all truth. Because there are a number of cases, those who are typically acute. Homeopathy plays immense role, fantastic role, and nevertheless, homeopathy gives faster, quicker result than the allopathic medicines. And truly speaking, this acute cases are nothing but a running counter, because the chronic cases, they are nothing but what I should say, this is something that fixed deposit, whose interest we get in every month. But there should be some running counter. And acute diseases are a running counter. It is one of the issue. The second very important thing is, if a person get benefited by homeopathic drugs for his acute complaint, so he becomes a lover of homeopathy. Not only he or she, but all the family members of that particular family becomes your patient. At the very outset, I want to tell something regarding acute diseases or acute conditions. That in our daily practice, we generally encounter two types of acute conditions. One, they are the true acute diseases. Now, what is the true acute disease? Means the disease that is occurring or suffering of the patient is in a short span of time. That is of 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 7 days, 8 days. And this is the typically acute conditions. And second, that is another acute state, that is acute exacerbation. That the patient is suffering with some chronic disease. He is getting treated for that chronic disease. But the person has developed some acute condition, or he has got the acute exacerbation of the chronic state. For example, bronchial asthma. So a person is taking treatment for bronchial asthma for a period of time, but since last 2 days, because there was some cloud, there was some rain, the person had developed acute respiratory distress. Now, from our practical and the clinical work, we know these acute exacerbations are not very easy to handle. They are difficult to handle. So this should be kept in mind, that when we are treating a purely acute disease that had came for a short span of time and again continuing, so the approach of treatment is different. And when the person is having acute exacerbation, so the approach of treatment may vary. But the basic is always the true, same, that symptom similarity should be there. I can remember a case of a person. He was of 65 years of age and he was suffering with fever. Now the fever was of last 15 days. The fever started after he attended a marriage party, and there he had taken some buttermilk, cold buttermilk. Now, he was alright, he came back to his home and there was some fever, but the fever was initiated by sneezing. Now, sneezing followed by running nose, followed by cough, and there was mild to moderate rise of temperature. That is, for example, the person was having some malaise, body ache, etc. and etc. man had got some knowledge of Ayurvedic drugs. So he had taken some Ayurvedic preparations. But this couldn't provide any relief to this case. Then he consulted some allopathic physician. There the routine medicine was prescribed until there was no relief. Investigations were made, and in that investigation, we have found his CRP was a bit high, some neutrophil count is high, that is presenting the picture of acute infection to this person. His viral test was negative, that is a very small rise of titer 1:20 most probably. That was during that time. Means should not be taken, or that may not be taken too much of consideration. And the person's malarial parasite and other tests. So nothing came out from this case actually. And the fever is persisting. Now his friend, he was a regular patient to me. He said me regarding the condition of that particular person. And because he cannot come, so I had gone. He asked me to visit the patient's place. So naturally I had gone there. Now when I entered to his room, the patient was lying. His very old friend who actually carried me introduced myself to that person. Then he started talking. He was MACB chief engineer. He was telling that he had designed the power stations around the city. He said that he understood by 20 to 30 years this city will get a mega shape. He was telling that a person who was politically active and who is considered to be a reformer of this city knew many planning was done by that particular person. So he has got a very good connection with them, with that person. And he never seen a man like that person in his life again. Very interesting that he was not saying anything regarding his disease. Nothing is said. He was talking about himself only. And that time I asked few questions because that is my duty. And I got to know that he is diabetic and he is hypertensive and some regular allopathic drugs he is taking regular basis. Now what information I have been able to collect is that he lost his wife 2 years back. Because he has got two daughters. So elder daughter, so she takes after this person. He is a irritable man. And what he says that everyone should follow. Dogmatic. He has got desire for sweet, but because he is diabetic, so he doesn't take. His stool is hard. He said he complained of headache, but the headache was not continuous. The pain is hammering type, beating type. And during the time of headache, he feels his eyes are being pulled backward. And he feels better on closing the eyes. But till this time, I couldn't get any symptom through which I can prescribe any remedy. Because after 15 days, after so many of these drugs, the person cannot tell what exactly happened within the initiation of 3 or 4 days where he was taking his own Ayurvedic preparations and other things. And this thing happens because the people take allopathy drug and the original picture of the disease actually getting missed. So this irony we also have faced. Any of the physician, my colleagues, my students, they have faced this thing. Now one thing I would share that I sat to his left side. I checked his BP. It was 130/90. Pulse was bounding. Pulse was regular and it was near to be 100 beats per minute, and his body temperature, that was 101 during that time. And her sister, his daughter, she said that the fever is not getting down less than 100. So a continuous type of fever. So that time I wanted to palpate his abdomen. And because I was standing or I was sitting to the left side, so I asked the person to change his side so that I can palpate his abdomen, I can palpate his liver. So his head was opposite side, and when I asked, so he changed the side. So I get his right side in towards me. I palpate the abdomen. There was no hepatosplenomegaly. It was slightly tympanic because he was taking allopathic drug and his stool was hard and it is not clear. Now after this, my examination or palpation is over. He again had tried to turn his head to the opposite side. That when I entered, how the position was there of the patient, he tried to do that. And during that time, this person hold my hand by his right hand because he was weak with fever, and he hold my hand this in order to get a support. And that time it was very interesting.